you, everybody, for coming to the College Football Betting with Aaron Torres YouTube channel. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of the screen. Go ahead, click that subscribe button. It helps our channel grow. It helps our audience grow. I appreciate it more than you know, as we're talking college football on this channel year-round. Appreciate your support. Click that subscribe button. It does have major playoff implications, at least for one team. As Texas travels to Arkansas, Texas a 13.5-point road favorite. The over-under set at 57.5. First off, you don't need to be a fan of the old Southwest Conference to know how much these two schools despise each other, especially Arkansas, Texas, from the Arkansas perspective. Steve Sarkisian said it this week. He said, I told my players, I don't know what Darrell Royal did to those guys back in the day, but they do not like us. And I think the quote that's kind of gone viral throughout the week is Sark saying, I think they dislike us. I think they dislike us more than they like themselves. So that tells you about the hatred in this rivalry. Let's dive into these two teams, and let's start with Texas. Listen, Texas, in my opinion, is sort of hard to figure out because they just don't have a lot of great wins, and they don't have a lot of great opponents. And this is a very significant game in both the SEC and the college football playoff, championship runs, right? Because if you look at this game, if Texas loses this game, I'm sorry. Even if you beat Texas A&M in the final day of the regular season, I don't know that you have a resume that's really college football playoff worthy. Right now, Texas has 0 wins over teams ranked in the top 25. They would certainly have one over Texas A&M if they get it the final day of the regular season. But this is must win. To the credit of Texas, they are playing very well. I came away very impressed with that Florida game last week. And listen, I know what everyone's going to say. Oh, Billy Napier, he gets the extension and the seal of approval. And what does he do? He ends up losing by 30. Well, listen, there was no DJ Lagway. But let's also not forget that Florida team a week before, even without DJ Lagway for the final 2.5 quarters, they hung with Georgia for basically the entire game. It was a tie game in the fourth quarter against Georgia when they played Florida. And against Texas, it was never even competitive, okay? Quinn Ewers, 5 passing touchdowns. Texas with 207 yards rushing. That was, all things considered, I thought one of the great wins of the regular. I take that back. That's a little bit of hyperbole. But start to finish, absolute domination. That's a team you should take care of, and they do. And again, after Georgia struggled with that same team without DJ Lagway, I'm not going to discredit what Texas did last week. I think it's also worth noting, much like Josh Heupel in Tennessee, we think of Texas. We think of the offense. We think of Sark, and he's calling all these plays, and he's scheming this, and he's doing that. Texas's defense is awesome. You know that Texas. Remember last year, Texas played Washington in the college football playoff. They could not get off the field because the secondary was terrible. And the secondary was terrible against everybody. Well, how about this? Do you know that right now, Texas has the number 1 pass defense in all of college football, giving up the fewest yards per game in the air all season long. They also have 14 interceptions this season, which is by far the most in the SEC. Alabama is behind them. But I want to bring it up because the pass defense is significantly improved. Number 1 pass defense in the country. On top of that, the run defense is top 30 in America. And so I just bring it up because this Texas team, I believe, is operating at the highest level right now. Arkansas, can't really say the same. Now, what's wild about Arkansas, they are the ultimate, what I would call, zigzag team, right? Is you look at Arkansas. They beat Tennessee. Oh, my goodness. What does it mean for the entire season? Well, apparently nothing, because 2 weeks later, off of a bye, they get destroyed by LSU at home. Then they beat Mississippi State. They put up like 700 yards of total offense. You're like, this team's awesome. They could beat anybody. They got Ole Miss coming to town. This could get interesting. And then Ole Miss destroys them. Ole Miss is a pretty good football team, but they gave up 60-plus points to Ole Miss. And so they're a zigzag team. You don't know what you're going to get. What's interesting about Arkansas is this. They have some real strengths, some real weaknesses. Bobby Petrino, to his credit, this Arkansas offense is top 10 in the country right now as we speak. So let's go ahead and give Bobby P a little bit of credit. But with that said, a lot of it is coming through the passing game. And to me, that's the interesting part of this whole thing. Bobby Petrino, with Sam Pittman, we think of O-line, we think of the run game, we think of this, we think of that. You know, Arkansas actually has the number 11 pass offense in all of college football this year. On top of that, the run offense is good, but it is not quite where you would think it was. And so I bring it up, they're top 40 nationally, but they're not elite running the football. And so I just bring it up to very simply say that this Arkansas team can move the football, but are they going to be able to do it against this offense? Taylor Green is banged up. He's expected to play all that. And I'm ready to make a pick on this game. When I look at this game, I actually do like Texas to win, and I do like them to cover. And I understand a couple things. One, I do understand the idea this rivalry is heated. I understand that Texas came here in 2021 to Fayetteville, and they got the doors blown off. But this is a different team. This is a different program. I'd argue Arkansas is probably a little bit of a different team as well in a negative way. But beyond that, I also just like the matchups for Texas. And it's kind of wild and it's kind of funny to think about, maybe not for an Arkansas fan. But if you remember, if you go back and listen to my analysis of the Ole Miss Arkansas game 2 weeks ago, what did I say? I said, look, it's heart versus head. It's brains versus statistics when it comes to that matchup. Because I said, listen, Lane Kiffin has struggled in Fayetteville. Lane Kiffin has not beaten Arkansas at Arkansas, and he has struggled overall against Sam Pittman, 2-2. Coming into that game, all the games were close. Well, I bring it up because I said, look, that's my heart, but also the statistics tell me that this is an awful matchup for Arkansas. Ole Miss has the number one run defense. We know how good that is, just as Georgia. And then beyond that, Arkansas struggles to stop the pass. Worst pass defense in the SEC. And so when I picked the Ole Miss Arkansas game, I went with my head and I went with my heart, I guess you would say, instead of my head. I went against the statistics and it burned me. Well, I bring it up to say that in this game, I'm going to do the opposite. The stats and the matchups tell me that Texas wins this game and they win this game big. I look at this matchup, okay? Remember, what does Texas do really well? Throw the football, top 10 pass offense in college football. Well, what did I just say? Arkansas is the worst pass defense in the SEC. They gave up 1,000,000 yards to Jackson Dart a few weeks ago. Gave up a lot to Garrett Nussmeier a few weeks back. So the pass defense is bad. This pass offense is elite for Texas. And then beyond that, it's also worth noting this. Arkansas's strength is throwing the football, but Taylor Green can be turnover prone. That is a bad sign against a Texas team that leads the SEC in interceptions, and it's a bad sign against a Texas team that leads all of college football in pass defense. So I could go on and on. Listen, would it stun me if it's close? Listen, this is a rivalry game. Arkansas is at home, but to me, the matchups just do not favor Arkansas. So go ahead, give me Arkansas, or give me Texas, minus 13.5. I know it's going to be a tough road environment, but I like the Longhorns to cover. And I like the Longhorns to cover, and I certainly like them to win out.